Welcome to Around the Grounds with Chocco, and geez, I'm really excited to have a chat with this bloke. And there's some things here that people might not know about this person. He's been involved at local footy. He's been involved as a coach, and he's also been involved playing down at the big time. And I talk about Greg Allen. Greg, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Chocco. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, mate, I'm looking forward to it, to be honest, mate. You've had an outstanding career, and I really want to delve right into it. But, mate, you started off your playing footy at Lalbert in the Uniting Footy Club. Was that a church competition back then?
It was, Chocco. It was. It's probably. I think it probably started in the 70s and well into the 80s. In fact, I actually won my very first premiership was actually in the under-15s with Lalbert Uniting back in the early 80s, and it was probably the start of the locally based junior footy as we know it today.
Now, mate, you started your footy career at Lalbert. Did you play senior football there? Is that where you started your senior football?
Yeah, look, I did, Chocco. It would have been, I think it was about 83. I was still at school, going to tech school, as it was back then, and started playing. Dermot Power, who was the local coach at the time. We weren't travelling that well, if I remember, but at that stage. But it was a great learning curve for me, sort of coming as a young bloke into senior footy. And it's probably, when you think some of the guys I played with, I still remember sort of things that they taught me at training and things like that today. So it was pretty valuable.
Now, 85, 86, you made the journey down south to the Big Smoke. You were down at Richmond. Tell us how did that come about, you getting that opportunity to play at Richmond?
Look, back then, Chocco, it was certainly, there were no, it was zones back then, so Richmond was our area. The draft hadn't come in. And if I recall, I started playing that year in the mid-Murrays it was then, and then got asked to come down pretty much the start of the year. So I had only just started on the farm at the time, and then when I sort of got the invitation to go down, I packed up and headed down. I remember driving down, probably the first time I'd ever dreamed in Melbourne, Chocco, if I remember, driving through the city to go where I was going to stay for the next few months while I was there, and thinking, what the hell am I doing here? And that was the start. I sort of started playing under 19s and reserves in 85, and sort of got to know quite a few of the country boys. In fact, I saw your very good interview with Trevor Ryan with Rowdy the other night, and I actually played with Des, one of Trev's brothers, and like many country boys that went down, it was a great thing, and we were lucky enough to go all the way.
Yeah, let's talk about 85. And I just want to chat. So you played under 19s in 85. Did you train on your own, or did you train as a collective group back then?
We did actually train on our own. It was probably difficult at times. The seniors and reserves train together on different nights to us. And look, at the time it wasn't a problem, but it was probably the club wasn't totally connected, but that's probably how it was back then. We had great people around us in the club, as in the coaching staff and things like that. So it didn't matter. And look, as I said, I played a few reserves games, and then when you're playing reserves, you're training with the reserves. So it was a great chance to get involved with the senior training when you were asked to play that Saturday.
Now, under 19s that year, for some people that might not know, he's actually went on to win the premiership. And in the VFL, Essendon played Hawthorn and won comfortably. In the reserves, Carlton played Hawthorn. And in the 19s, Richmond 17-14, 1-16, defeated North Melbourne 13-11, 89. Tell us about the opportunity to play on the biggest stage in the biggest day in the VFL calendar.
Yeah, look, Chocco, it was pretty amazing, and I think probably at the time I didn't probably realise until the next couple of days or the week after what an opportunity it was. I remember being at the ground. We had to be at the ground at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I think we started it at 9. Back then, the reserves and the under-19s played the curtain raiser before the senior grand final, which was a fantastic thing. And I remember going in at half time, or being sort of quite nervous before the game, but we had sort of family and friends come down as well, and so they were in the rooms before we went out. And then by the time we ran out at sort of 9 o'clock, there were probably a spattering of people around the MCG. And look, there could have been a few thousand, but in the G being so big, you sort of don't realise how many people there. And at half time, I remember going in back into the rooms for the half-time break, and then running back out in the ground. And there probably would have been maybe 50,000 people there then. They'd filled up that quickly, and sort of from then on, if anything happened during the game, there was a roar from the crowd. It was pretty exciting. So I certainly treasure those moments.
Yeah, and a big game, particularly because you played North Melbourne. They were a bit of a powerhouse back then. You beat them. I think they only lost twice throughout the year, and one of them you beat in the second semi, and then you beat them in the grand final. So what was it feeling like going in as the underdogs, I guess, that year?
Look, I remember, Chocco, the team we had, and Doug Searle was our coach. He was a great coach, ex-Fitzroy player. It's interesting. We were very confident going in. I think we had a pretty good list going in, not too many injuries. So we rated our chances. As you said, North Melbourne were a very good team, and they were coached by Dennis Pagan, actually, at the time. And actually, Tony Liberatore was playing for North at the time, and not that we sort of realised his potential, what he was going to turn out to be. But look, we thought we had a pretty good opportunity, and Doug was the coach. Sort of, he made sure that he'd done his homework and we were all up to speed with what was going on. So, looking back, I don't really think that we thought we were underdogs. I thought we had a pretty good chance of actually pulling it off, and fortunately that's what we did.
Now, some people don't know, but Craig Smith actually played in that game. He was recruited from Lower, kicked a couple of goals. So, what was it like to share that moment with someone from your grassroots?
Well, look, Craig Smithy was a mate of mine, or still is. He's up in Sydney now. But we went to school. He's my age. We went to Lalbert Primary together, and then into the tech school together. And then he went down before me. And look, he's a great player. He ended up playing probably close to 80 senior games for the club, for Richmond. And it was pretty special. We obviously we used to socialise together as well as playing, so it was nice to share that with a little bit local. And then after my time, just shortly after, Tony Free, who went on to he's a Lalbert boy, went on to captain Richmond Seniors. So there's a bit of rich history with the Lalbert fellas and Tigerland.
Now, 86, you spent some time in the reserves, mate, and you would have been around the likes of, Flea Waitman, Jimmy Jess, Morris Rioli, the list goes on and on. What was it like being at a club, and what did you learn because you would have only, been 19, 20 back then. What was it like as a young bloke, mixing with some of these greats of the game?
Look, it was probably a bit surreal thinking about it now, but at the time you quickly adjusted because you saw so much of them at training and around the club. But I distinctly remember the likes of Mark Lee, the General, Jimmy Jess. The country fellas, as in those senior players, were fantastic to us young country boys, and they sort of nurtured us a bit and looked after us and helped us along the way. And I'll always remember that. Phil Egan was another guy. He was a Robinvale boy. He was fantastic. We sort of looked out for each other a bit. But when I remember seeing likes of Morris Rioli and amongst it, he was just something special. And it was a great time to be involved when you stop and reflect. And Michael Roach and a few of those legends, basically. And they're great people to boot, as well as being great players.
So, Greg, you spent some time down there. What was the reason for you coming home? What made your decision to go, this is not for me, I want to go down this direction and head back to your roots?
Well, Chocco, I'd like to say that it was my decision, but there's that sharp object called an axe that that fell on my head. Look, at the time, I mean, the seniors weren't travelling that well, Richmond seniors. It was probably an opportunity if you had having to string 2 or 3 good games in the reserves. You're probably shortlisted to get a senior game. I probably didn't realise the opportunity that I actually had at the time. It was probably one of my biggest regrets, I think, in footy, Chocco, that I didn't work harder. Country boy going down to see the city lights, I may have had a little bit too good a time when I was there and didn't focus on the other things. But so look, I was given the marching orders then, which was fine. I had an unhonorary premiership medallion around my neck, and so I thought this is time to head off in another direction and see where I end up.
Now, coaching became one of your fortes because in 1990, mate, you ended up coaching Charlton to a premiership. Was that something, coaching was on your radar, Greg? Was that something that you felt that is a passion or something you wanted to do?
Yeah, look, it was, Chocco, probably from a fairly early age. And in the sort of late 80s, mid to late 80s, I started playing in-league footy with Mid Murray, as it was back then, and under Darryl Powell. And I love the way he went about it. He was a terrific coach. And I sort of thought from an early age that I would like to get into coaching and probably based a lot of my coaching and methods and on the likes of Darryl Powell and also Potter Evans, who was a school teacher of mine, but also a Lelbert coach. And so just combined with sort of knowing what I wanted to do and had some basic idea, and I thought I'd give it a go.
Now, let's talk briefly just about interleague footy, but, you know, you spent some time playing interleague footy. What did interleague football mean to you? You played with some of the better players at a state level. What did it mean playing with the best of the best at regional level and in your hometowns? Look,
it meant a lot to me. I loved interleague footy. Back then, everyone did. I mean, given the opportunity, I think that everyone really wanted to aspire to be the best in the league or to be a part of a team that was the best in the league. And I think probably the other thing, Chocco, back then, a lot of the recruits weren't travelling. Every club had recruits, but they were up here, living here, and so you're getting to know them. And so if they were playing interleague footy, you were seeing lots of them, and of course all the local boys that were very good. You know, you're amongst that. It was like the 9th team, and I remember finally just even the committee involved, the committee with the Mid Murray, the legends, the older legends, Jack Betts and Dougie Morpeth, and all those guys you actually loved mixing with after trainings, and they used to come away on the bus trips with you as well. And so it was the whole box and dice as far as I was concerned, the playing and also the social side and getting to know each other. But look, the footy was fantastic. The trainings were fantastic. You know, the ball never hit the deck, and you wanted to impress and you wanted not to let the other teammates down, and certainly got to know a lot of other guys involved from other clubs, and you became pretty good mates with them, to be honest.
Now, let's talk about 91. You had the opportunity to coach Lelbert. You didn't get the success as a coach, but you came runner-up. Tell us about your time as a coach at Lelbert. Like, you started off, I know you coached them a few times, but what was it like to coach your home club? And what did it mean to you and your family, more than importantly?
Look, it was pretty important to me. 1990, I was lucky enough in my first year coaching a premiership with Charlton, and probably should have stayed another year, but sort of the calling to come back to Lelbert was pretty strong. So I only stayed there for a year at Charlton and then came back for that reason, that I was pretty excited to coach a home club. Sometimes it's not always easy, a local boy coaching your club. So you sort of got to have a few strategies in place and be fairly disciplined. But it was a fantastic year. we had some great players, but also we had some players that worked very hard to make the cut, and that's probably what I'm most proud of, getting the most out of some players that may have not made it otherwise. And then unfortunately we were beaten by a better side, certainly in Swan Hill on the day. They touched us up in the end, but look, we went through. We won the second semi, we went straight through, and we certainly gave ourselves a chance, but it was not to be.
Yeah, it wasn't not to be, but you didn't have to wait long because 92 came around. I know you didn't coach, but that was coached under Bernie Conlon at the time. But Lelbert got the success they deserved in 92. And tell us about how it was like to win a premiership and get that success at a club that means so much to you.
Look, it was pretty amazing. Bernie was a great coach. He had a fairly simple philosophy. He was a very tough player. He's probably the toughest bloke I've seen play pound for pound. There wasn't much of him, but he kept it pretty simply. And I think when you watched him play, you sort of found inspiration yourself. But again, we had some great players playing there. Chips McCartney, the O'Mara boys. You know, it was we had some good local kids. Darren Jobling and then Trevor Holt. So we had some good players amongst some recruits. But it was pretty amazing to finally get the monkey off the back, I guess. I'd actually played in '88 grand final that we lost as well to Swan Hill. So it was probably third time lucky for me. So it was finally nice to have a bit of premiership success with the Eagles.
And then 94 came around and 95, and you had the success as a coach and won back-to-back flags at Berry Colgoa. Was it a different feeling as a coach compared to being a player, Greg? Was it very much the same?
Look, I think it was probably they're similar, but as a coach, I think there's a little bit more personal satisfaction, Chocco, that you might not publicly admit, but when you've coached a premiership, you do sort of sit back eventually and think, you're not happy with yourself, but you're just happy to have been able to take a team through to the end and get that flag. And Berry Colgoa are a great club, and they had won a flag in that Southern Valley League. So it was, from my point of view, it was fantastic to be able to achieve that for them, and then to go back to back. But certainly, I think as a coach here, there's that little bit extra satisfaction involved when you do coach a premiership, without a doubt.
Now, you went back to Lelbert in '96, and it's the last year of the Mid-Murray before the merger of the Central Murray, and they ended up winning the flag in '96. Tell us about '96, and obviously your family was coming along. You had a beautiful wife. Things were starting to evolve, and you won a flag in '96. And how was that feeling like amongst yourself?
Look, it was a fantastic year, Chocco. It was I'd left Berry Colgoa to come back again. Sort of the pull had sort of got me back to Lelbert, and Jared Bibby was coach. He was a fantastic player and coach, and we sort of got a great group together. A lot of locals had come back, so it was going to be one of those years where we thought we could do quite well, and certainly I had a knee injury early in the year and sort of set me back personally a bit, and then basically worked my way back in after a number of weeks. So it was sort of, at a personal level, it was quite nice to get back and then be eyeing off the chance of playing deep in September. '96 was probably interesting even for me. And from that family thing that you were talking about before, Chocco, my father, 30 years before, in 1966, played in a grand final, but the week leading up to the grand final. And he's a farmer as well, like me, of course. And he was after the three things, and that was a premiership, an inch of rain, and a sun. And he got all three, and obviously that sun was me. And then fast forward 30 years to 1996. History repeated itself. I won a premiership, an inch of rain and a sun, and I was lucky enough to complete that trifecta. But apologies to both my daughters too, by the way, Chocco.
Yeah, and we'll get on to the girls in Meg and Claire, but 96, apparently you just had Harry not long after the 96 grand final. The boys have come past the hospital and you're sitting there nursing, and apparently Jin said, hey, you better go out and celebrate with the boys. Is that true?
Look, it is, Chocco. We had Saturday night was pretty big after we'd won that day, but Virginia was ready to give birth at any stage then. So we sort of had a bit of a plan that that I'll kick my heels up Saturday night and that'd be about it. And then Monday morning, Harry was born, and so I thought very selfishly I'm going to miss out on Mad Monday. Um, and as we're sitting in the hospital room, with Harry's only a number of hours old. Back then, that when you won, you jump in the back of a truck and drive through the streets of Swan Hill, and that's what they did. And calling out for me, so in the end, went down to the pub and had a few responsible beers, Chocco, and then back to the hospital, of course.
Yeah, and it would have been some great celebrations. Now, you spent some time at Berry Coal Go. You went back, you had some success. You went back as a non-playing coach in Lowood in the early 2000s. Did your coaching methods change at all, Greg, or was it the same thing that you had all through your coaching career?
I think, Chocco, that's a pretty good question. I think it does change. Look, you certainly mature as well, and you probably see things differently. From when I first started as playing coach, I certainly quickly realised the importance of placing trust in good people off the ground, and that probably took a couple of years because you're probably wanting to do everything yourself, and I realise that can't be done. You've got to put your trust in other people to make decisions, and otherwise it's just too big a workload. Fast forward to not playing, I think there's obviously more responsibility because you're off the ground. You're the one making decisions. All of a sudden, you've got some good people and selectors and that sort of thing, but it's up to you and you only to make the decisions, and you're responsible for what you do.
What do you see? How do you see coaching going forward? In your opinion, do you think that it's changed, and do you think it's changing quite regularly? What is your opinion on the current day coaches?
I think they do a fantastic job. I think it's a tougher job than probably when I did it. Look, there's certainly more things at their disposal as well. Now, even if we look at local footy, you've got videos after the game and that sort of thing, and that would be so helpful to looking back, showing snippets to players and that sort of thing. And certainly, I think that the game style probably has changed from when I played or coached, and there's more involved. And I don't necessarily think that it's any quicker. Maybe it's just played in a different way. The current day players might disagree with that, but I think there's more for a coach to have to oversee and take care of. I think, look, coaching is a fantastic thing, and it's not for everyone, but it's certainly so rewarding. But I think today's coach has to deal with a lot more than probably what we had to, and maybe we got away with saying, and to certain players to get the best out of them, whereas maybe today they can't do that. I'm not quite sure, but it's a tough gig for anyone. I think I admire anyone who has a go at it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to get on about Lalbert and the Mallee Eagles and what the community means. But your father, Rob, was involved. Your mother, your grandfather was president. Virginia, your wife's been president, netball coach. You got Meg and Claire who have played netball. And your son, Harry, is playing footy. What does it mean to you, Greg, to sit back and see generations being involved at the one club? But what makes Lalbert so special to the Allen family?
Look, I think it's just the history that the Allens have been involved in. I mean, like a lot of family names that have been in clubs forever, you admire the the generations that go through, whether it be football or netball. And I suppose it's just so satisfying when you see your kids go through. And I coached Harry for a number of years with junior footy, and just to see him come through, and then both Claire and Meg, the girls, come through and enjoy doing what they're doing. Like, they love being involved with the club, because they probably went through a period in the 2000s, Chocco, where I really didn't think, and I was pretty heavily involved with the club. We'd bottomed out, and I really didn't know whether we were going to survive. And at one stage, it's pretty stressful. At one stage, you think, well, it's just all too hard. Let's finish this. And fortunately, through a lot of hard work from a lot of people, we turned that around. And when you get to the stage where your kids are playing and involved, and it is so satisfying. And look, my mother's a life member, Virginia's a life member, and so we love being involved on and off the ground. It's a terrific thing. It makes you realise how important sport is. Having said that, I think this year, the way it's probably been with the COVID thing, Chocco, it's probably been almost a chance for clubs to reboot and to refresh, maybe having the year off. I mean, some people mightn't agree with that. And so that could be, going forward, that could be so beneficial for everyone involved in clubs, just to have that little bit of a kicker maybe. But it's certainly a wonderful thing knowing that your family is enriched in your home club.
Now, Greg, and I apologise for not mentioning Meg and Claire in this, but as a parent, sitting on the sidelines watching your son Harry, who's a terrific footballer, he hasn't had the team success. He's played in grand finals, but he's represented the league. He's won best on grounds at league level. He won the Jack Betts medal as the best and fairest player last year. How fulfilling is that for you as a parent? And do you actually pull him aside at all and have a chat, or are you just one of those parents who just says, look, just let him go and let him find his own pathway?
No, I don't say anything to him, Chocco. I mean, I just tell other people that I taught him everything I know. No, that's a joke. But,
no, well, it is probably true because...
No, it's not actually. He's a very different player to me. He's very quick with his hands. He plays midfield. So he's forged his own path. No, look, we have chats, but I certainly don't overstep the mark. My father was the same with me. He'd say something quietly, and then we'd have talks about it. But I don't pull him aside. And the only thing I like sort of with Harry's mates from other clubs, I like watching them play as well, because he's grown up with other players, and so I like watching sort of his generation come through, and that's sort of satisfying as well, like seeing the other blokes that you've seen grow up, and his mates, and of course I've got Daniel Bibby. I better mention him. He works for me and actually lives with Harry. So I've coached Daniel a fair bit. So when you see guys like that, the young ones coming through that you've had a lot to do with, it's a great feeling.
Now, I'm going to leave you with this one. And I know you spoke earlier about some of your regrets, particularly back in your under-19s, but what is probably the main thing that you've loved about country footy and what you've done in your football career? What is there one particular that stands out than the rest?
Look, I don't think, I certainly know every probably club I've been to has had a wow factor for me, whether it be the people or what's happened, premierships. Premierships certainly that's the pinnacle, and that's sort of why you play or why you coach. But I think just being involved in clubs, and I've been involved with clubs that we haven't had success. In fact, we've been quite ordinary, but I've had a ball. It still rates highly, and when I look back and the people involved. So I think that's the thing with me, that the people you meet and the times that you remember. That's what I love about country footy. So I don't think any one thing stands out, Chocco. It's just I probably wish I was 20 years younger again and do it all again, to be honest. But It was been a great journey for me, and I've been lucky that I've had the opportunity. That's about how it is.
Well, Greg, mate, you've had a stellar career, and I know you'll enjoy your daughters and son running around, and who knows, maybe grandchildren down the track in time to come. But, mate, thanks for joining us on Around the Grounds with Chocco, mate. Absolute pleasure having a chat and some reminiscing on some great stories. And I look forward to catching up soon, mate, at the football.
Thanks, Chocco. I look forward to that, mate. And look, I think it is a great thing that you're doing, just to keep the fire burning like you're doing, and you're creating a bit of a niche for yourself as well, which is a bonus. You're putting the work in, and so I think at a time where we're having a bit of a recess from footy, you're giving a lot of people just another interest, mate, to look at. So well done to you, mate, and thanks for. I'm honoured that you even thought about having a chat to me, mate. Good on you.
Nah, appreciate it, Greg, and you've been a fantastic person to chat to. Thanks.